If you want to get your own video made for you, exactly the same as you'll see in this one, then check out the first link in the description to get your personal PowerPoint made. Private option available. Okay, so we're going to be starting off with your best features, which you've got about 10 of. Now, your best feature, in my opinion, is your eyebrows, and they've got two good features associated with this. Firstly, their thickness. As you can see, it's quite similar to the ideal that we've got over here, and they've got a good shape as well. And I would definitely say this is your best feature. And they do have one flaw related to them, because obviously not every feature you have can be perfect. And we'll get that into a little bit later, because they do have a good shape and thickness, but they don't quite look as good as some of these ideal ones over here. And that's because they got that flaw associated with that we'll get into a little bit later. But as a whole, I do think that your eyebrows are a very strong feature that you have, and definitely above average. The next feature that you've got, that I think is also positive, is your hair texture. As we flick through some of these different photos, I think that your hair texture is very good. As you can see, it's quite similar to the ideal. It's quite luscious, it's free-flowing, and it doesn't look like it's got any signs of bad health. And you've also got a good hairline, and it's hard to see your hairline properly in any of these images because your hair is covering your forehead, but even if we imagined that it wasn't like that and your hair was peeled back, then I doubt it would be receded. It looks like it would be square, and this is partly because of your age as well. You're only 20 years old, and it's very unlikely that you're going to be Norwooding at this age. So yeah, your hairline and hair in general is definitely a strength, and if you've ever got compliments from girls similar to age to you, then you'd probably have been told that your hair is one of your best features, and girls like your hair. And another good feature that I think, which is also one of your strengths, is your skin is quite clear. So if we flick through some of these photos, you can see it's quite similar to the ideal. And this is definitely fortunate for you because a lot of guys your age or younger than you will have skin problems. But it's definitely a good health indicator, and it's great that you've got this healthy and clear skin. The next good feature that you have is a compact mid-face. And if we just look at this image here, you can see what I mean, because your face doesn't look too long. It looks like the ideal, and the ideal is this 1-to-1 ratio between the eyes and the upper lip. It looks like you would have this, even though the lines aren't drawn there. And even in this photo, you can see that how that would be the case, because even though this photo is taken quite close up, and usually your face looks longer the closer the angle of taking the image is to your face, but even with this close photo, you can see that you would still have this ideal 1-to-1 ratio, which is definitely a strong point. And the next good feature that you have is that you've got good facial definition. And this is mainly owed to body fat percentage. Like, it's very hard to have a face as lean as this if you're overweight, if your body fat percentage is not even over 20%, but even above 15 to 16%, then you won't have this kind of definition. But as we can see, you're very lean. You're probably in the 12 to 13% body fat range, which definitely helps and makes your face lean. And you can particularly see this in and around your jawline, your cheekbones. It's definitely a strong point for you. And lastly, you've got pretty decent facial symmetry. And it might not be quite as perfect as the ideal that we have over here, but as a whole, if we were to draw a line down the middle of your face, you would see that your face would be quite symmetrical as a whole. In fact, I'd say the only minor issue is a little bit of the eyes, and your septum might be a tiny bit deviated, but it's a bit hard to see. As a whole, no one's going to notice these tiny asymmetries, and sometimes they can even be beneficial, because if your face is perfectly symmetrical, then it can almost look a bit weird, and I've got evidence for that, which maybe I'll show in another video, but as a whole, no one's going to notice asymmetry for you, and they would think that you have a very symmetrical face, which is definitely a good health indicator. And now getting into your flaws, which you have roughly an equal amount compared to your positive features. The first flaw you have is the lack of forward growth, and you can see this straight away when we go to your side profiles. It just doesn't shoot as far as it needs to, because if we compare it to the ideal, you can see his mandible is very forward grown, and his jawline shoots past the nasal bridge, which is the ideal, and that's what you want to have good forward growth for. Whereas if we look at the flaw, if we look at the guy who's not got a good forward growth, yours is a lot more similar to his because it doesn't shoot that far, it's not as far reaching, and this is definitely your biggest issue in my opinion. And this also coincides with the next flaw, which is a lack of chin protection. And if we look at the two images, it's pretty obvious to tell which image is more similar to your chin. It looks very similar to this unideal one, actually, and you don't have this forward-reaching chin projection, which is shown in the ideal. So yeah, these two things are definitely your biggest flaws, and they're going to come into why you got the rating you did. And if you didn't have this flaw, then you might have got a higher rating. The next flaw is that you've got upper eyelid exposure, and you can see pretty clearly again, your eyes are more similar to this not as good one, and having eyes like this, where there's too much upper eyelid exposure visible, it's going to make your eyes look more like prey, whereas in the ideal, you want to have your eyes look like a hunter, like you have this hooded eye shape, and this is what this guy has, but you don't have this, so your eyes are almost making your face look a little bit more feminized, and this is why you might have been told previously in your life that you're more on the prettier side, because if you had eyes like this, then you would look a lot more masculine and, yeah, less of a pretty boy. And now the next flaw, which is also similar to this, and this was the flaw with the eyebrows that I mentioned, is that you have a large eyebrow to eye length. So if we look at the gap between your eyebrows and your eye, you can see there's quite a big gap there. And just flicking through some of the other photos, you can see how this is the case. It looks a lot more similar to this sub-ideal man's eye to eyebrow length compared with the ideal, which is where your eyebrows are pretty much sitting right on top of the eye. And there's not much you can do about this, but it's definitely making your eye area a bit weaker. And this is also a pretty severe flaw in my opinion. And now the next flaw is that you have a little bit of an oversized nose, and it's not quite as bad as this guy's. It's just a little bit too big for my liking, and maybe it's made a bit worse because you have taken the photo really close to your face, and that tends to make your nose slightly bigger than it should be. But even in some of the further taken away photos, you can see it's just still a little bit too big. It could be a little bit more refined. And getting into the next flaw, you also have a bit of a thin neck. As you can see, it would be ideal if it was just a little bit thicker, more similar to the width of the face that you have. However, there is a fix for this because you can start neck training. It's a good job that you're quite young, because after you do this for a few years, there's all tutorials online that you can look up for how to make your neck thicker, and I think this will definitely be a thing that improves your masculinity, because as a whole, a lot of these flaws, if we combine them together, are making your face just not masculine enough. It just doesn't look as masculine as it needs to be. And if you're able to fix some of these, some you can fix, such as the neck, others you can't, such as the upper eyelid exposure or the eye to eyebrow length. Even if you just fix a couple of them, then they will definitely help you and make you more attractive. And that's going to be really important for when you get older, especially because you will often see that the pretty boy aesthetic it pretty much dies a death by the time you're 23, 24. It's mainly for younger guys who can pull off the pretty boy look at the moment. And the next flaw you have, also related to your nose, is that you have a little bit too much nostril show. And it's not crazy upturned, but as you can see, it's pretty similar to the sub-ideal that we have over here. And it would be better if your nose was just slightly more downward turned. The next flaw, which is very, very minor, is your philtrum is a little bit too long. It's not a huge issue, and I wouldn't really worry too much about this because these flaws are in order and the top ones are a lot more relevant for you. And lastly, you have a little bit of a steep Gonian angle. Again, this isn't that important, but it's just a little bit too steep for my liking. It would be more ideal if it was similar to this Gonian angle. And now getting into the Looksmaxxing advice. So given all of these flaws, and what can we do to make you look better? How can we make you more attractive? And the first thing that I would say is, given your age, we need a hairstyle that suits you. And I think that your hair is pretty much good, to be honest, given your age. You will need to think about changing it as you get older, because I would say you fit more into this box at the moment, that your hair is good for your age, you can get away with it for now. However, once you reach 23, 24, you pretty much need to get rid of this long, floppy style. It only looks good because of your younger features. And when you're at the age of these dudes, who they're pretty much the same age as me, I would guess, like 23, 24, then that's when you would want to transition to something that's a bit more masculine. And when you're doing that on top of the neck training and trying to look more masculine in general, then that's going to coincide with your age increasing, and your masculinity is going to reflect your age. The next one, which again is similar to becoming more masculine, is gym maxing. And I would mainly focus on gym maxing for muscle if I was you, because if we look at your weights, 66 kilograms at 5'8", it's not terribly bad. It's around average, but ideally you do want to be a bit bigger. Like, I would say this is pretty much the ideal physique. And if you just added some more weight to your shoulders, to your arms, to your wrists, and to your back as well, then you're going to approach more this kind of weight. I would say the ideal for you would be in and around the 75 kg range. Like, that's a good weight for your height. And it might seem quite distant at the moment, given you're only 66 right now. If you spend time and the effort and you put work into the nutritional side as well, then slowly but surely you are going to be approaching this physique, and that's the ideal. Not every guy is going to make it, and not every guy even has the genetic potential to make it to this physique, but in general, this is the physique that you want to be striving for, and this is the most attractive. This is what can generate the most primal from women. Next, also height maxing. You are 5'8", which is a little bit below average. It's around 2 inches shorter than the Western average height. And you would want to wear shoes that just give a little bit of a lift. You don't need to overdo it, and you don't want to go crazy. Like, these look a bit ridiculous if I'm honest, but what we're looking for is any shoes that add in the 1 to 2 inch kind of range. It does make a small difference, but it's not getting to the point of frauding. So I would say this will definitely help you. Next, as for styles, we want to stick to something basic. So it seems you're already doing this, because this black top looks a little bit similar to this one. Something that just fits well, has neutral colours. You can never go wrong with neutral colours, well-fitted, tailored clothes. And it's going to be a little bit difficult to find the clothes that perfectly suit your frame, because some are going to be a little bit too big, some are going to be a little bit too long. But this is the ideal that we're going for. I don't believe in this oversized fit stuff, and I don't believe in, super tight fit, unless you've got a good physique. Like, this guy will be able to pull it off, and this guy too. But for you who's got just an average frame, the regular size clothes is going to be best for you. And you don't want to go for any patterns or stripy clothes. This guy's frame doesn't help him either, but the pattern isn't a good look either. And the color would be better if it was just plain white too. And the next Looksmaxxing advice is I would consider growing a beard in the future. So for all of those flaws to do with the jawline that I mentioned earlier, they can be rectified if you grew a beard out like this, because as you can see in this dude's, his jaw is a little bit too rounded right now. He's got several flaws related to his jawline, but if we imagined him getting a little bit older, a little bit more mature, in his mid-20s maybe, and he grows a beard, you're able to shape it in a way that makes your jaw flaws disappear. And if you're able to do this, I don't think you would be able to do it now, because it doesn't look like you've got the ability to be able to grow a beard. However, as you get older, your facial hair will grow thicker, and you're going to be able to grow a beard, which will definitely help get rid of some of these flaws, especially the severe ones like the lack of chin projection and the lack of jaw forward growth. So I think something like this would be able to help you. And lastly, coinciding with the last point, I think just in general, as you get older, then your face is going to become more attractive just naturally. Your neck is naturally going to become a bit thicker. Your face is going to become more masculine. You're going to have more developed bones, because your face doesn't stop developing once you reach 18 or even 20. It continues developing until you're at least, I would say, mid-20s, like 25. And that's when you know what your true set point is. And if you ask most people who's more attractive out of these two, they would definitely say the guy on the right. He just looks more masculine and more attractive. And I think this is going to happen with you, because you do have a little bit of a baby face at the moment. You're more on the pretty boy side. And never forget that the more masculine you can make yourself usually will make you more attractive, unless you're super masculine and you become more like a roid cell. That's when it goes too far. But as a whole, I think that if you just wait it out and you're able to see that your face becomes naturally more attractive as you reach 25, then it's definitely going to improve how attractive you are. So given all of these things, getting to your final rating now, I would rate you as a 5 out of 10, but with potential for 6, potentially 7, depending on how well the face development goes, and depending on how well you implement the other Looksmaxxing features. But for now, given your age, given your facial attractiveness, given the flaws, I would say that you're, at the moment, a 5 out of 10. and closer to a 6 than a 4, to be honest. Now, lastly, getting to what your rating means. You got a 5 out of 10. This means that you're in the top 60%, top 25% of men, because obviously so many guys got a 5, and this bell curve was actually sampled from 1,000 ratings that I've done before. As you can see, 35% scored the same. So you could be either on this side of the 5 out of 10 range or this side of the 5 out of 10 range. And I would say you're slightly closer to this sort of territory. So I would say you're probably more in the top 40, top 35%, not on the lower end of the 5 out of 10 range, which will be on the 60% side. So overall, it's a pretty decent score, and 25% scored higher than you and 40% scored lower than you. So I think as a whole, you're average looking, and I would mainly be looking forward to the future for when you're implementing the Looksmaxxing advice and your face develops a bit more, and then I think that your rating could improve as we go forward. If you want to get your own video made for you, exactly the same as you'll see in this one, then check out the first link in the description to get your personal PowerPoint made. Private option available.